Arc Raiders is enjoying success so early on into its life cycle. The extraction shooter that has seemingly begun the genre's slow transition to more mainstream audiences, something which seemed impossible not too long ago. It's a curious thing to observe the differences in sentiment between Arc Raiders and Marathon, with the latter having as close as you can get to a PR car crash. There must have been some level of cautious anxiety around Embark Studios when they witnessed the fire being held to the feet at Bungie when they initially announced that Marathon would be an extraction shooter. Though it should be remembered that this is Embark Studio. It's the same studio that took a late stage battle royale genre and managed to carve out their own space with the finals. But regardless of what's happening with Marathon, it doesn't make the welcoming of Arc Raiders any less interesting, a game that is smashing it on the Steam with 300k plus players at its most recent peaks. It's a game that still does all the extraction shooter basics, PvE, PvP, crafting, risk and reward, and it's not so hardcore to the point where it becomes a fetish, like what's an offered in Escape from Tarkov, a game which coincidentally released in 1.0 a few days after Arc Raiders. So with Arc Raiders being the first game that is seemingly bursting into the mainstream as an extraction shooter, are we in the middle of the extraction shooter explosion? Genre explosions are normally dictated by the quantity rather than the quality. The extraction shooter genre is limited in its number, with a lot of titles actually being game modes rather than full releases. And as an overall picture, even fewer of those actually stay around in the long term. The Cycle Frontier, closed. Call of Duty DMZ, discontinued. Battlefield 2142, what the fuck is a hazard zone? The Day Before, yeah. Delta Force, that still exists. Escape from Tarkov, Marathon, maybe. And Hunt Showdown, one of the few success stories outside of Tarkov. And don't even get me started on Darker and Darker. So where does the hottest new game on the block go from here? Other than smashing player numbers and consuming content creation like a horde of locusts, Arc Raiders still has a lot to tackle. As with any multiplayer game, the biggest threat to it will be its players. The eternal fight against cheaters and exploiters will surely rise at some point. Arguably, the biggest issue is something that can't really be controlled, the meta. In an age of content creation and hyper coverage, every single game is quickly chipped away to discuss the meta. This gives those who seek it a shortcut to the easiest, most efficient way to play, thus eroding that whole discovery period that makes games quite exciting and fresh upon their initial release. The reality is, much like all the games mentioned prior, Arc Raiders will reach a point where everything is figured out. And this is where the true realities of Arc Raiders and the broader appeal of the extraction genre will be met. Of course, there will always be the struggle to keep the game fresh, whether that's battle passes, new items, time-limited events, or changes to the endgame. But for now, what we have, we can enjoy. Even with the questionable use of AI, some desync issues, and everyone having their own take on how the game should be designed, whether it should be PvP or PvE, Arc Raiders is at least providing a net positive feeling towards a genre that's had a rough year or so. It will be interesting to see if Arc Raiders' success and penetration of the mainstream makes it easier for Bungie's Marathon to land. We of course will not know this until much later down the line. So for now, let's just see how Arc Raiders does. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's a temptation to call every popular game the best game ever, the best multiplayer game ever, game of the generation, etc, etc, etc. Content creators will battle for it being game of the year, people will pivot and make their whole content just about one game, and while it is the shiniest toy on the block, sometimes it's important just to remember how to play a game. To simply enjoy it, and soak in everything around it. Because when all is said and done, the most important part of Arc Raiders might be the impact it has on the genre, and the mainstream appeal of it, and what the lasting effects of that could be.